You need multiple players along those defensive and offensive lines, so just bring in more talent additions. This one coming in from Big Ten country. Talking Miami football with all of you right here at the Voice of College Football. Leave those comments and questions there in the live chat for Cam Underwood from State of the U. Cam, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good. Just, Wednesday night tradition of starting up the stream and also watching Miami Hurricanes basketball at the same time. But, glad to do that. Miami's up 8-4 on Boston College. So hopefully, we bounce back from last week's loss, which was atrocious to a bad Georgia Tech team. But, hey, that's basketball. But we're here to talk about football and roster construction and recruiting and all those kind of things. So glad to be here. Looking forward to it. Let's get it.
I know nothing about what's going on in college basketball these days, but I'm going to guess that Boston College is nearly as bad, correct?
They're 8-8 and 2-3 in conference this year. So, there were some years that they were like one of the worst teams in captivity. So taking a step towards mediocrity, which is a step forward. And, I know that there are some areas and ways in which the Miami Hurricanes football team will try to do such a thing, like along the offensive line, improvement from abjectly horrible to simply bad would be a big step in the right direction, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah.
All right, folks, again, comments, questions, leave them in the live chat. We are going to discuss one, Branson Dean, who played quite a bit of football in West Lafayette, Indiana for the Boilers. Let's see. Let's add up the games played. 10, 20, 32 games played, 28 tackles this past season, which the Boilers took on LSU in a bowl game, at 4 tackles for loss and 2.5 sacks. So maybe not some kind of outstanding prospect, but at the same time, a guy that was on the field for a strong program and contributed.
Yeah, and as a junior in 21, he had 9.5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. So, 15.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, playing the defensive tackle, so you're not nose, but like your 3-tech inside kind of a guy for Purdue. 2 times the last 2 years, honorable mention All Big Ten for his efforts and everything. He can stop the run and everything, but he's more of a penetrating tackle. We're going to lean in on causing disruption and havoc along the defensive line. And he's another cog in that machine, as it were, inside. So, yeah, no, I'm not expecting him to be, Cameron Kinchin's first-team All-American or anything, but he's a 5th-year senior coming in with, more than 30 games of experience in 2 different years, being honorable mention in a Power 5 conference. You could do much worse. And he's a guy who's, he graded well. Take that for what you will, because Pro Football Focus called the Acorns the national champion because they graded out the best. And I'm like, they lost twice. Like, what are you talking like that? Anyways, so take the grades and everything as you will. But obviously, like with a massive block of salt. But no, he gets up the field. He's made plays. And again, even 2 times as honorable mention in the Big Ten. So you add him, you add Thomas Gore from Georgia State. I hate the GSU is both Georgia Southern and Georgia State. I think it's Georgia State that he came from. And then you still got the guys on the roster, not Darrell Jackson, because he did actually enroll at Florida State after that whole rigmarole last week, where it looked like he may or may not have, but Leonard Taylor, Jared Harrison Hunt, those guys. There's other guys, Lichtenstein is back for another year along the defensive line. And there's plenty of dudes that I'm forgetting. But yeah, this is another game ready guy who you can put in there. And he's not the Leonard Taylor elite talent, right? But you can put Branson Dean in the game and not take massive multiple steps back in terms of who comes in. It might be a half step, but again, that's something I can live with. Like, he's a grown man. He's 23 years old, as a 5th-year senior. So that kind of a player adding in just adds to the rotation and should be able to continue to help the defensive line be a foundational strength of the Miami Hurricanes defense.
I'll state that, of course, you have to win football games to win a national championship. You can't do what Cam just stated. So that's completely illogical in regards to awarding a championship. But I understand what Pro Football Focus does. They're the grading guys, and they just grade every play and just say, regardless of who's winning or what the score is, there's the grade once we give it to you in that measure.
If they would have said that, then I would agree. But literally, the guy who did it said, no, the national championship or the national champion per Pro Football Focus. That's yeah, like exactly. If they would have just said, oh, they were the highest graded team, and like, but they did the UCF thing with it, and that's just where no, sorry,
I didn't hear that.
Like I hear you on what you're saying, and you're right. But they did not say what you're saying. And that's where I had the problem.
Super sticker coming in from Falcon Rex. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here as always, sir. You know that.
All right.
All right. Well,
nice.
Since you're anticipating that it's going to be brought up in the chat, we might as well get a jump on any rumors or possible moves made by Jaden Rashada.
Yeah, so this has been a whirlwind all day today, where it has been confirmed that he has not enrolled at the University of Florida as of today. And there was an initial report that Jaden Rashada has asked for a release from his national letter of intent with the University of Florida. Then another person went or asked his father about that, and the dad said that that was inaccurate. And then the original guy, so somebody from 247 called Harlan Rashada, the father, and he was like, yo, so what's up? And he was like, no, he said he has not requested a release. The unstated ... yet looms over that phrase, but Harlan Rashada said that Jaden has not requested a release. So then the original author from On3, which is having a really bad run of reporting across multiple teams and multiple of their sites, went back and then had to amend his thing. So, well, yeah, I checked with a source and said the initial report was that Jaden Rashada and Scott Strickland, the athletic director at University of Florida, had spoken. Who is calling me? I do not know this person. They've been calling me all damn day, bro. Whatever. Sorry. But yeah, so the initial report was, it was couched as that reporter had confirmed that Rashada and the athletic director had spoken regarding his request for a release. And then he came back on the timeline and said, well, actually, I talked to another source, and that earlier report is erroneous. So I've updated and amended the piece and blah, blah, blah. And it just sounds like it looks on the outside like you're trying to be first and not trying to be right. Like it sounded to me like single sourcing, which, you can single source, but like you have the potential to be wrong. This is why, professional journalists, of which I am not one, will have multiple sources as the foundation before moving forward with a report, not just one thing. And, had I, run with single sourced information on multiple things in the past, I would have been wrong. When I was working in high schools and I talked to even the player in question, you know what I mean? In some of these instances where I heard something, there was even one guy. Oh, no, yeah, I said it before, so I can say it again. Jeremiah Holloman told many people that he was going to their schools, including Miami, and I saw a text message to that effect. Now, what I did not know, and I got that from someone who would know, right? I saw the screenshot of the text message, Jeremiah Holloman to the Miami Hurricanes coaches. And I did not run with that at the time because I only had that one source of that information. Now, had I worked on that, or, if I was connected in such of a way, then other sources would have told me what I eventually found out, which is, oh, he sent that text to 6 different schools. And if you talk to all these different people, or and you have multiple sourcing, then like that picture becomes clearer, as opposed to, okay, I heard it from one person, I'm going to go with it. You can do that, but you have the leeway to be very wrong, which is what it seems like the initial reporter from On3 did. And yeah, it might be you might got to live with that. You got to own that and be like, yeah, well, I went to a source, and it's because everything that I saw from that gentleman today said a source, as in a singular. And that's just not how you want to live, unless it's, I mean, it has to be some special circumstances to single source some things. But in any event, at this point today at 7:18 p.m. on Wednesday, January the 11th, 2023, Jaden Rashada has not enrolled at the University of Florida. Will he enroll? Now, and that's the question that I wish we would have gotten the answer to from the follow-up contact with Mr. Rashada Sr. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's not enrolled. Is he going to enroll? Is there a plan? You know what I mean? Is it just he's, instead of moving in on a Tuesday, he's coming down Thursday or Friday? Like, is the intent there? Is there a plan in place? Like, what are your travel, structures? And I know that the FAA had a massive plane or a computer issue which grounded planes today. But like, if you're flying down later, Friday, Saturday, that hopefully wouldn't have affected that. But, that's the necessary follow-up, and I didn't see that there was an answer to that. So yeah, I mean, I will believe Mr. Rashada at his word that Jaden has not requested a release of his NLI. But again, to me and my outside read, having seen these kind of things for years, the unstated ... yet is there. And like the also fact of, because if the other reporter had gotten it from Mr. Rashada that Jaden was coming down on such and such a day, trust and believe it would have been in that piece. It would have been all over the timeline right now. That didn't happen. And so that leads me to believe that I don't know what is going on, but something is afoot. And we'll see what it is.
I'm a bit surprised to see a number of people in the chat who are sick and tired of Jaden Rashada.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where, you can go scorched earth and burn bridges, but like, if you got to all of a sudden evacuate that same way south and that bridge ain't there, what you going to do, fam? You know what I mean? Like, he's one of the ones who, obviously at the question direction of people, because everybody knows he was committed to Miami first before he, changed his mind to go to Florida. So of course, all the Florida journalists at the the Under Armour All-American game and all the way through this process, they're going to continually ask, yeah, so tell us what was the difference? They're building the hype around the Gators. You know what I mean? And if you're all in with your new team, you're going to say some stuff. You know what I mean? And I get it. I get where, yeah, but I just, and I said it on, and I honestly mean it. I wish the kid well, because this has to be stressful. This has to be a terrible thing. You know what I mean? Like, you committed to this school, you're from the LA area, Los Angeles, you're coming across the country and everything. And then, to the point of, the Notre Dame guy, I forget his name, but I just saw the comment. No, he's not enrolled in classes, but you already made the decision. You're enrolling early. You're coming across the country. You're going to play for this team and this coach and this program and all these different kind of things. And then now you're not. And, it's been leaked that you want out. And then your dad has to come in and speak and say, like, this is a multi-layered, stressful situation for this kid. You know what I mean? And in general, I wish him well, and I know that this has to be stressful. And would I rather that he was, signed to Miami and already on his way down, because classes don't start till Tuesday because private schools start late. Cool. Yeah. But, regardless of that, in general, again, we have to remember the decision of where you're going to go to college and, things like that. It's about the biggest decision of your life to this point. And he seems to have made that decision, and then things, for whatever reason, seem to be going a little sideways at this moment. So it has to be stressful for him, but he has the talent. to make it work. And, eventually, even when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, you end up in a better spot. And whether that is for him ends up in Gainesville or elsewhere, I honestly just want him to be well, whatever that means.
There are 4 crystal ball predictions on 247 Sports. They're all pointing in Miami's direction. One,
but those were before his.
Okay, you don't think those have been?
No, those have not been updated. Those were before he committed Miami the first time, which is, yeah. And then there was inklings that he was going to flip, but it's very infrequent that, especially on 247, just because of the way that the points go in recruiting for the journalists, right, for their predictions, it's very infrequent that they're going to flip their prediction. So yeah, no, those were all from way back when. Falconer X, does NIL and portal make it hard for kids? I mean, there are other layers to the scenarios, sure. And again, it's been said, I'm not sure the validity of it, but it has been said on multiple sites and social media today that there's an issue with Jaden Rashada's NIL deal with Florida. Whether they're giving or quoting to have given impermissible stuff, which when it, hits the compliance officer, like, we actually can't do that, or, whichever legal representation, like, okay, whatever's been offered, we actually cannot fulfill that. That's been a thing that's been said, and then, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, NIL is not a component of recruiting right now, and it is. So, like, yeah, you've seen guys who are like, yeah, I would rather go somewhere else, or I turned down these, Zay Flowers turned down 6-figure offers to stay at Boston College. Brandon Ennis famously talking about, yeah, if it was about NIL, I would go somewhere else, but I want to get, coached by Brian Hartline as a wide receiver, which, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's 2 rookies that dude coached this year who had 1,000 yards receiving in the NFL. Like, and on top of the previous, on top of the previous, on top of the previous, and the next, and the next, and the next. And number 18, he's coming back to the Acorns again, and that dude could show up on an NFL roster tomorrow and be the number 1 receiver in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to say that NIL is not an issue. It is, or, a variable. It definitely is. The other thing is the portal. Yeah, I mean, the portal does close down some options, but, like, I think you're seeing other guys who might be a late take at a big school. They're just going to go to the small school, ball out for a year or 2, and then transfer up. Like, your talent, nice take, your talent is going to land you where you could or should be. You know what I mean? Khalil Mack does not play for 4 years at Buffalo today. You know what I mean? He doesn't. I mean, shit, Jared Verse was at Albany. He played for a couple years. Now, okay, cool, I can go. I've shown and proven. I've grown, developed my body, whatever it is. I put it on the field. Now I can go somewhere else. So do those opportunities for the portal players incoming take away spots for high school kids? In some instances, absolutely. But you're seeing Western Carolina has a decent recruiting class, including, like, the Broward County leading rusher this year from Miramar High School. He's going out there. Now Des Reed is like 5'8", 170 pounds as a running back. He's probably not going to be, going to Alabama, but if he balls out over there, he can go somewhere bigger. You know what I mean? And yeah, so, like, it does make it harder, but also it just kind of, the entire landscape of the sport of college football has changed because of independently NIL and portal. But yeah, both of those things are constraints on high school players. And you're seeing that again for some of the fringe guys, your maybe developmental 3-stars, which teams might take if they're like elite at something. But if not, then I'm going to take a grown man to come in and plug that gap right now. You can go to insert smaller school here, and somebody's going to circle back on you later on down the line if you put it on the field and show and prove that you have that ability.
Kim, do you know much about these NIL values that we see on, like, On3? Like you can look up any team in the country and they'll show these NIL values. Is that just some kind of metric that they've come up
Yeah.
with, or
Yeah, it's a algorithmic metric that they've come up with, and everything. And it's like it's partially like social media based because you can say, oh, convert like, okay, this many followers, and like if you did things like that. But it's even interesting because they tout that obviously with the On3 NIL thing, but they're always even reworking their stuff and say, oh, well, this guy got this, so his value's bumped up. Is his value bumped up? Or were you wrong to begin with? I mean, like, like it could be a little bit of both, where you're like, I think this guy is worth 150, and then somebody, God, I wish I remember the player, but yeah, he got like a $600,000 NIL deal that was like known. It was like out there. It was like stated to that amount. And they're like, oh yeah, we're bumping this guy up over, is well over $500,000 for his NIL value. And I'm like, yeah, because like your number was off by a factor of 4. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those kind of things. Yeah.
So they've got some kind of formula. It creates all these fake numbers, but in certain instances, probably less than 10% of the time, they actually discovered a real number, and then they can supplant the formulaic number with the actual number in some cases.
Right.
And say, that's the number. We got it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I mean, it's also funny because you don't go up and down with performance because, like, there's and it's like it's a living thing. You know what I mean? It's like if you're talking about evaluation, then or a valuation, not evaluation, but a monetary valuation, it would have to fluctuate like the stock market, right? So think about somebody in the past, like a Kenny Thrill Hill at Texas A&M. You're telling me that number was not astronomical in the first 3 weeks when he was balling out of control at Texas A&M and then fell off a cliff after that? You know what I mean? It cannot be. It's not a constant, but they kind of look at it as such because like these deals are not necessarily public record. So it's like, well, we're kind of going off of what we're going off of, but like I have not seen them level that based upon on-field performance, which is a part of growing the name, image, and likeness of a player. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, Kenny Hill launched the SEC network on a Thursday night with like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. And yeah, lost his job like 5 weeks later.
Yeah, but I think it was like 5. I think he had consecutive 500-yard games to start the year and
Something
then a 400.
Like that,
It was like he had like 14 or 1,500 yards passing in the first 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, but like, then, like, yo, my NIL value, like, the ceiling is the roof, bro. Like, I'm getting everything. You know what I mean? But, like, yeah, but if you have somebody who has consistent performance, like a Bijan Robinson, every week you already know, sure, that's maybe more, sedentary, more stable as evaluation. But, like, yeah, like, it just, I don't know. I mean, even a guy like a Colby Young, right? If you're looking at evaluation, when he had, he come out off the bench, he gets like 100 yards and 2 tutties in a game, and all of a sudden out the middle of nowhere. Not saying that it would have been 8 figures, but like you can't tell me that his valuation then wouldn't have been higher than later in the year when, I mean, it's, 2 catches, 3 catches, whatever. But hey. And to Falcon Rex's point, a huge life decision at 18 would be hard without money. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough decision. And myself included, I've already told that story, but like everybody doesn't know where they're going to go, or what they're going to do.
But it's so much more correctable today than it was 2 or 3 years ago with the transfer portal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, if you're a fringe player, if you're not demanding, that much attention and you're not of that status, then that's a different deal. You do need to get it right, and you may be out there without a home if you don't play it right and find the right spot and play well and all those things, versus if you're Caleb Williams and you mess up, then I think you'll do just fine, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, yeah,
All right. Shoot, that was a direction I was going here and I lost it.
I will say this while you're looking for something to grab onto. I'm not worried at this point, but I'm starting to get concerned regarding Miami's inability to recruit a viable top end wide receiver from the transfer portal. Yeah, it's really like Dante Thornton. He's going somewhere that's not Miami, and he had played for Cristobal before. I just saw there was another receiver that we brought down for a visit, or no, yeah, Angelo Anthony from Michigan. He's going somewhere that's not playing for Josh Gaddis, who he previously played for, was recruited to the University of Michigan. And it's just like every time Miami cannot close. And it's a little concerning at this point. You know, Gary Bryant Jr. from the University of Southern California is in the transfer portal. He's going to take a visit to Miami. I think that he would add explosiveness to the offense, but again, that's another 5'10" dude, and we got 11 of those guys on the roster already. So I think it would be helpful, but I don't know how much, because we still need a big X, a big Z receiver, like a big guy. And like Colby Young is a guy, and I think he can be like a very solid rotation dude, but I don't know that he's like the tip top. You know what I mean? And yeah, you know, it's also I forget the dude's name. I was just looking at it, but the 5-star Branch from South Carolina, he's going somewhere that's not Miami. Anthony Lucas, who is Haitian American and from Miami, but he grew up he moved to Arizona I think it was in middle school or the beginning of high school. He actually just transferred to USC as well. So, and I mean, those two are on me because I wanted those on defense. But like when you have confirmed that you have Dante Thornton on campus, when you have Angelo Anthony on campus, looking for, you know, a big body, you know, receiver to do work, and you cannot get any of those, and it's just time after time after time, it's a little concerning at this point. But we'll see. I mean, like little fast dudes are great, but like the Dolphins make it work because they got the fastest little dudes in the world with Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I don't know that we have the fastest little dudes in the world, and also they're not at the level of skill of those guys either at this point. So it's a little unsettling, at least for me. So yeah.
Well, it's nice to have the complete, you know, stable of diversity with, you know, the slot guy, the big body guy, the take the top off the defense guy, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Wholesome One, Cam and Mark, always great to check in on y'all. Cam, I sent you an email. Let's give the people what they want. Cam and Wholesome One live.
I didn't get the email. Send it again. stateoftheublog@gmail.com.
I will let you.
I'm literally
figure that out.
But yeah, just or DM me or something, because I think you do. Yeah, but yeah, holla at me again. I'm literally in my email right now. I don't see it.
Do you have any interest in the most recent Florida State addition to the transfer portal at wide receiver, Malik McLean? Caught like 17 balls last year, 3 touchdowns, 33 catches the last 2 years, 5 TDs.
I mean, he would maybe add to the rotation, but I mean, he's not what I think of when I think of like I need a guy at the top of the list, man. You know, like I know that he didn't necessarily look the part because he's only, you know, 5'10"-ish, but KJ Osborne's still in the league. Still in the league. I just saw he got a couple features for video breakdowns going into the playoff game with the Minnesota Vikings, because like he's making plays and he's scoring touchdowns. And he got like, somebody was like, hey, you know, I want to bring on KJ Osborne. We're going to break down this coverage. We're going to break down this route combo, see what he did and how he did it. And when he came in from Buffalo, and again, he was just a dude. on IMG as a high schooler. He was a 2-star recruit, goes up to Buffalo for 4 years, comes out to Miami. He was at the top of the list, right? Charleston Rambo rewrote the record book in his year here. Top of the chart, right? I need that guy. I really, really do. And I don't know that we have that dude on the roster. We got a lot of 2, 3, 4 receivers, like complementary guys who specialize in an area or a thing. We don't have a playmaker. And I mean that like Michael Irvin. We don't have the playmaker. We don't have an Andre Johnson. We don't have Amon Richards. You know what I mean? We don't have that number one dude when it's 3rd and 7 and everybody knows the ball is going his way. He still wins the route and catches the ball through contact. Keep your flag. I don't even need the defensive pass interference because I got 8 yards on 3rd and 7. Come hell or high water. We don't have that dude. And I need that guy. And if we don't have that guy and I need that guy, that means we have to go look somewhere outside of the roster because, I mean, Michael Redding is fine, but he's a middle of the pack, middle of the receiver group kind of dude. Colby Young, I still think him is like his ceiling, I think, is probably a very good number 2 receiver, although he does have that 6'4" height. But I don't know, man. I don't know. We got to find somebody from somewhere because, I mean, again, God love him, but we cannot have Xavier Restrepo be our number 1 receiver. We can't. He's a number 3. He's a number 4, type guy just because of his build and his stature and like what he plays, the position he plays and the route combos that he really runs. Like you're not going to single him up. Like you're not going to call a play for 7 as a him ball. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we can use all the verbiage of the playbook. The ball's going to him. We don't got a him guy at receiver, and we need him.
Falcon Rex, appreciate you being here, man. Super chat is Miami recruiting school versus a coaching school.
As in, like, recruiting is the thing apart from development? Yes, absolutely. 100%, 100%, 100%. And this is what we've been talking about, Miami doing less with more than anybody in the country, because if Miami was able to coach and develop the players like other teams have been, then we would be way more successful. But yeah, this is a team that, you get gourmet ingredients and all of a sudden then you're making pig slop. And then years later, when we're on here, we go through and the retrospective of a class. Well, this guy was okay and this guy was all right, but, underperformed all the way up and down the list, even, 4 stars, 5 stars, things like that. And then you get a random, Buffalo transfer like KJ Osborne, and he overperforms, what we thought he was going to be. But he was basically, pretty much already a finished product by the time he came to Miami. He just needed a bigger spotlight to be able to prove that. But yeah, no, Miami is definitely a team or a school where, there we go, Nigel Pack, let's get it. This is a team where recruiting far outpaces coaching development. And look, I'm not saying that there has not been any, but remove Gregory Rousseau, right? Which is that's the one everybody's going to say, but Cam, he was a 6'6", 200-pound receiver safety, and look at him. Fine. Diamond in the rough. That was a perfect developmental path. Got it. Remove him from the conversation. Who's another one? And go back as far as you want, guys. 10 years, 15 years. I mean, and if you want to talk about a year of Robert Knowles, his 5th year being, but look, you laugh.
Robert Knowles.
Look, he was terrible for 4 years, and he was solid to above average his 5th year, right? Okay, fine. I'll even give you the 1 year of Robert Knowles. Who else really has stepped up because they were coached and developed that kind of a way? It's not many. And again, you might have a couple few names, to add to that list, But I mean, when it gets to the point where we're looking at 1 year of solid play as the evaluation of like development and coaching, that shows to you the issue along that path.
Now, when you look at the current coaching staff, you would think, based on what they've accomplished elsewhere, that is in the process of changing.
One would hope and one would think. Absolutely. You know, all of pretty much everyone on the staff fits that moniker. You know, Kevin Smith, he's developed good running backs at Ole Miss, and I think that the running back room is always going to be a position of strength for Miami. You know, like him, love him or hate him, Josh Gaddis has put multiple guys in the league as a wide receiver coach. You know, don't forget that he was a wide receivers coach at Alabama, you know, with all those South Florida 5-stars that Mario Cristobal got over there for him. Denzel Perryman started as a freshman. Like, he got better, but like he was playing like, hold on, because I got this already open. I'm going to go up here. Come on, Denzel Perryman. 2011. Come on, computer. Yeah, Denzel Perryman had 69 tackles, 6.5 for a loss, and 2 forced fumbles in 12 games as a freshman. Like, I mean, he ended up with 108 and 110 as like third and fourth years, but like, that's a guy who came out the gate playing very, very strong. And he was, I mean, and another Coral Gables Senior High School alum right around the corner from campus, but like, he hit the ground running. He was a known name. And like, yeah, he got better, but like, the variance in the improvement was lower because he came in already as a highly touted guy who started as a freshman and was very productive. You know what I mean? Like, and even if you want to say he developed over time from 69 tackles to 110, but the baseline is a 70 tackle season as a freshman. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, but okay, fine. Even if I give you that one, that's now 3. Whereas other teams you can point to and be like, oh, well, this guy. We don't really have those.
Because I got to think, if you're having successful, not just recruiting classes, but the development of those recruiting classes, and you're bringing in roughly 22, 23 players per class, and let's say, 6 to 8, 10 of those guys don't turn out, and probably were not projected to turn out to be anything more than program players. Then you've got another 12 or 13 dudes. And, if you're recruiting in Miami's current pace or like an elite power, with a top 5 type class, then, a handful of those guys, you almost can't mess them up. They're
except for Miami did. That's the other part of it. A handful of those guys might, like, you can't mess up. Miami did.
Kind of the 20-80, or what is it? Maybe more like a 20-60-20 rule. 20% of the class, they're never going to be players. Hopefully they can contribute in some way, and then 20% might be a little high, but some of them are going to be players regardless. And then what do you do with the other 60%?
In Miami's case, not a whole lot. And that's where the issue comes.
So I don't know if Falcon or X, I don't know if he's playing with us here when he goes like GOAT status here. Ed Reed and Sean Taylor. But that was a long time ago.
And I mean, like, Ed Reed, yeah, he started on the specials and then kind of worked his way into being incredible. Sean Taylor, the only reason he didn't start was because, when he got here in 2001, like, this is the greatest college football team of all time. Even a guy of Sean Taylor's, ability is going to have to sit behind somebody. But he didn't, like, really even sit because, like, we played him on specials. We played him on defense. Like, I mean, he just wasn't Sean Taylor, when he first said, but like, yeah. Jaquan and Redwine. Okay, I'll give you that. I mean, but again, Jaquan Johnson, legend in Dade County, 4-time first team All-Dade. So, like, even though he's, 5'10" as opposed to 6'2", that's a guy who you expect to come in and play well, even with his physical limitations. But I mean, yeah, he's a baller and been a gamer since, forever. So, yeah, he developed. But, and Redwine, I think Redwine more because Redwine played corner because we needed corners, but he was always more of a safety. And he developed into being that and playing well at that area, But like, yeah, it's really just, I'm thinking of development more as like the delta change from like what I expected from them coming in versus what we got because we improved their demonstrable and repeatable skill on the field. But like, I would put those guys as down the list, even. I mean, like on the list, but towards the bottom, just because like, or I would put Redwine as more of a developmental person than Jaquan, who was more ready-made and was more similar to who he was all the way through his career. But that's just me.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, breaks it down for us on Miami football right here on the Voice of College Football every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Get on back next week. Bring some friends with you. For whatever portion of these conversations that you miss, you can always catch them right after we're done with the live stream. So just wait for the video to post. It takes seconds, and you can catch what you missed. Speaking of Ed Reed, he's, I got to say, not that I knew what Ed Reed's aspirations were, but I just thought, oh, he's in this position in Miami, and he's going to be just kind of that guy that just figures out what kind of impact he can have on young men and on the, the success of the program. But he chooses to go down to Bethune-Cookman and become a head coach. And obviously they have signed a contract to continue their series with one Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah, so that's actually up because obviously they're further north than in Daytona Beach than Miami. But yeah, but from multiple reports, Ed Reed has been interviewing for coaching jobs the last couple of years. So last year and this, and yeah, good on him. Obviously, congratulations. Good for the Wildcats. They've fallen on a little bit of hard times recently, and Florida A&M University has kind of passed them in terms of performance on the field recently. So, yeah, I guess they're, trying to turn some things around and whatnot. And, and Ed Reed has been a coach before. I mean, and this is the thing where we were talking about him coming as a position coach, potentially previous to his, whatever chief of staff designation that he ended up having, or culture person, whatever it is. But he was the assistant defensive backs coach for a year with the Buffalo Bills. I think it was 16. I thought it was 2 years, but I think on Wikipedia it said it was only 1 year. So this is a guy who coached in the NFL. I mean, as an assistant position coach, but and is well known as one of the smartest players to have ever played the game. It was funny. I just saw that clip that we were talking about him misplaying a coverage against Peyton Manning, and Bill Belichick just gush, "Oh my, best play I ever saw from a safety. Oh my God, it was he's outside of his brain because this is the thing we've talked about. So even if you have that as a foundation, you see the game differently, you're known, and it's not even like he went out there and was like, I'm super smart. I'm super smart. Hey, look at me. I'm super smart. You watched him play and saw that come through in his play because he was thinking the X's and O's and thinking not even just that, but in a chess way where I'm thinking 2 and 3 steps down the line. Yeah, and he's coached in the league already, again, as an assistant coach for a position. But look, this is a thing that, has been on the radar. So as opposed to somebody like a Deion Sanders who just came in, hot off a television set, or whatever, this is a guy who has actually coached, and been maybe looking to get into that. So good on him, good for him, good for Bethune-Cookman University, and I wish them well. And when we because we did renew the at least for next year or this current year in 23, the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats will be the fourth and final non-conference game for the Miami Hurricanes. And it will be great to see him across that sideline, and we should beat the dog shit out of them again, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, even being able to secure that contract again against Miami helps out the athletic department for Bethune-Cookman because that's a payday for HBCUs. And so, that big payday from coming down here is going to help float, the athletic department there for another year and everything. So, I mean, it's a win-win for everybody, I think. And a positive step forward for him. So very good.
And as Falconer X adds here, Ed Reed is simply a cool guy.
Fact. And, it would not surprise me at all to see Bethune-Cookman recruiting a little bit better with him as the head coach, just because he's, been around the structure of Mario Cristobal. And, as opposed to being, Ed Reed was kind of the cherry on top of some recruitments where like the kid would come down and like, you would see Ed Reed around the facility, not saying that he was like on the road recruiting or anything, but like you come in for a visit and you're a defensive back and it's just like, yeah, I'm coming through the facility. Oh, there's Ed Reed. Okay. And then you connect and you do whatever. Like, yeah, but then like you get the full engagement and everything. So there's that.
Michael L. Andrus II. Michael, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the super chat. Actually, Michael, you were headed in the same direction I was after Cam was lamenting the issues with acquiring wide receivers. This was going to be one of about 4 bullet points I was going to hit on. Josh Gaddis being one of the potential issues in recruiting receivers.
It's hard to say no, that he's not an issue. I won't say that he's the issue, but he might even be the issue. But he's the offensive coordinator. He's the wide receivers coach. Our passing offense was middling for large parts of the season, and the performance of the receivers was not necessarily great. And we're not getting receivers in the transfer portal. And again, we're not getting like the elite receivers from down here this year, which is a challenge, And then like, if you look, there was a time during this cycle that I thought it was a foregone conclusion, and many people thought it was a foregone conclusion that Miami was going to sign Dante Moore from Detroit Martin Luther King High School, because he was, favored to go to Miami or go to Michigan at a time when Josh Gaddis was the offensive coordinator there and everything. So you bring that relationship with you, Jaylen Brown. I saw, it was a quote unquote foregone conclusion that like, at least those, definitely a Dante Moore. When we hired Josh Gaddis, that really did seem to be what it looked like. And remember, I personally preferred Nico Iamaleava. But look, I might have been wrong on that, because I watched Dante Moore slice and dice and wheel and deal in that the All-American Bowl, formerly the U.S. Army All-American game. Look, buddy, I might have been wrong about that kid. And I still thought he was good, but I didn't think he was like that. But again, when Gaddis got here, the known scenario was probably like, okay, I was the lead recruiter for this kid when I was at Michigan. He's from Detroit, Martin Luther King. I go to Miami. He came down for a visit, came down for Paradise Camp or Legends Camp, whatever they call it now, and everything. So you think that doesn't happen. We didn't get any of the really elite local guys. And look, I know Ray Joseph is incredible. I know Robbie Washington's incredible. But like, they're 5'9", 5'10" slot dudes, guys. Like, there's a ceiling on their performance. But like, your All-Americans, not your All-Americans, your X's, your bigger receivers, even a Brandon Ennis who's only 6 feet tall. Nope. You did like those guys around. No, guys in the portal that I've already mentioned off the top. No. And there's one guy who coaches wide receivers, and he also calls the offense. And yeah.
And we've gotten past the point that we could reasonably expect anything to happen concerning Josh Gaddis. If it hasn't happened by now, I got to think he is.
One would think.
Yeah.
I see people on social media clamoring for Cliff Kingsbury. That ain't gonna happen, because that's a thing that happens if ever Mario Cristobal has the epiphany of Nick Saban of, we got to open this offense up and we got to really be more explosively dynamic in the vertical passing game, especially. If and when that happens, then something like that. But no, that goes counter to his foundational paradigm and belief of how football is to be played. So I don't think that is a realistic scenario. And at this point, yeah, I don't think that there's going to be. I think if there's a staff change, I think it's going to be because of somebody getting a job somewhere else and leaving. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're kicking anybody out. But hey, everything really comes down. Not everything, but a lot comes down to next season. You have to take a decent size step forward. I mean, 8-9 wins come hell or high water. And you're playing the youth and you're developing that youth from the 22 class, from this 23 class. And I mean, a guy like a Wesley Besaint, he had an internal development last season that was really good. He's playing specials only, and then he's starting at linebacker. Being foundational to the starting 11 on that defense in the end of the year. That's growth right there. But you got to continue that next year and the year after. But yeah, no, this season we really got to start to see some stuff. Proof of concept is big. Hire Michael Irvin as the wide receivers coach. I mean, you only get 10 assistants. So if you do that, Falcon Rex, that means somebody got to go. And honestly, if you do that, then multiple people are probably going to have to leave, because if you do that, then that means you're going to need an offensive coordinator, and the offensive coordinator is probably going to be quarterback's coach. So do you think that Frank Ponce is ready for the big chair, or do you get somebody else, you know what I mean? And move things around in that kind of a way. So, we'll see, but at this point, I'm pretty set on this coaching staff returning, or I think that this coaching staff is going to return, and then whatever happens in 24 is fully dependent upon the job performance in 23.
Since we last left everyone last Wednesday, Miami did get that transfer commit center guard from UCF and Matt Lee.
Yeah. I think that, he was a starting center at UCF for multiple years. In terms of performance, he graded out very highly and everything. And it's coming to the point where Cristobal is trying to get, you want to have multiple options at every single position along the line. And whoever wins that spot wins that spot. And, I think, I think that Lee is an upgrade on Ja'Kai Clark. Ja'Kai Clark at center, I think he was fine. You know what I mean? But yeah, you get a guy there. You got all these dudes. I mean, you got Jalen Rivers coming back, Zion Nelson coming back, who didn't really play. I don't think he played a snap this year. He played in one game. But that's, an offensive tackle who started for 40 games in Miami along the left side. So he's there. Francis Mauigoa, Samson Okunlola, who both start. Well, Okunlola started at left tackle in the All-American game that used to be the Army game in San Antonio, that one. So he started at left tackle in that game and was dominant in practices all week. Mauigoa didn't play in his All-American Bowl, but he's, I think, going to play in the Polynesian Bowl before coming to campus and everything. So now you got those guys. You got Jalen Rivers. You got Javion Cohen from Alabama, who comes in, and he's played guard. And, he might want to play tackle or try, and we'll see. You got Anez Cooper. And I just named 9 names, right? And that's where you want to be, because in the past it was Zion Nelson's going to start at left tackle because we ain't got nobody but Zion Nelson who can play left tackle, period. But yeah, you're getting to the point where like every position along the offensive line is up for grabs, and you really want to have that where you're not just relying on what's been there. And yeah, so I mean, I think that Lee adds a measure of experience and performance that could be good if he wins that spot. Or if not, then, you know, maybe he's challenging for a guard spot, which again is only going to help the team. And then you can get somebody like a Lawrence Seymour finally to take a red shirt, because he should not have been playing last year. He was definitely a fish out of water. He definitely needs a mango season to develop. But yeah, you know, you add the Lee kid who could play center or guard, you get guys back, you know, and other transfers in there, and then you're able to then take a slower developmental path with, you know, a guy like a Lawrence Seymour who, like, look, we're going to just develop you for a year and then bring you in, hopefully, to perform better. So yeah, I think that is what you really want to see, even if it's not the necessarily sexy marquee name that everybody wants. Adding playable guys at positions is really what needs to happen. And this offensive line really, really, really needs a big reshaping. And everybody knows that. That's why Miami recruited 5 guys in this class along the offensive line and has now already taken 2 transfers. So yeah, very, very heavy on that. So we'll see where it goes.
Tim Prangley, Trojans, Canes, 2024 college football national championship game.
I think one of those teams can be there. I do not think that the other one is, or could be. So, yeah, Mario knows O-line, but what else? I mean, he won the Pac-12 a couple times. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he knows recruiting overall. I mean, he's, again, 2-time National Recruiter of the Year. You know, like, he knows how to build a team. He's been in places where, you know, he's built teams and whatnot. Now, hopefully that the program can be sustainable. And, like, look, I know he's not there anymore and everybody wants to, you know, be mad and upset and everything, but like what he set in place in Oregon is continuing. And like, good on Mario for setting that up, and good on Dan Lanning for doing his job and continuing that. But like, the performance is very similar, and that's a credit to what was left and the guy who's taken over and continued to move that forward.
Now, I'm not talking about college football playoff appearances and all of that. That's certainly within the scope of what Miami can do because of a lot of facets we don't need to get into, but we have a zillion times over and over. But if Miami's not winning roughly 9 games a year, 3 to 4 years, 5 years from now, I will be scratching my head. I will just be like, what's going on here? Capable coaching staff, a head coach who won in the Pac-12, and the recruiting footprint being what it is. I will.
And he won at FIU. I mean, he did win a championship at FIU, but like, apart from Cristobal's tenure, FIU's been dog doo-doo. And he got that team to like 8-4, 7-5. That's a massive job at FIU, bro. Like, come on.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you being here. Catch what you missed. We got a couple questions in the live chat that pertain to topics that Cam had already covered. So keep in mind that you miss a lot here if you come in late. So catch that portion of the video as it records.
I will
and get on back next Wednesday.
And we will have something else to talk about on Wednesday because Cormani McClain is committing somewhere on Sunday. He says he's signing. I don't know what you're signing on January 15th. Again, I said again. And I've even looked down the recruiting calendar. Broski, I don't know what you're signing. I really honestly don't. Unless it's a financial aid agreement, but hey, whatever. But regardless, if he's announcing this weekend on Sunday, then we will have clarity and finality, to this recruitment. So he continues saying that, you know, Miami or whatever, but like, I didn't find what he said at the Under Armour All-American game to be very genuine about Miami being the only thing or only place that he was considering or anything like that. And like I said, when his mother sent that text message at 9:46 on early signing day Wednesday, which is 14 minutes before his ceremony was supposed to commence, that he was not signing, at 9:46 on that Wednesday, I wrote him off in this class. I just don't. I don't see it, and there's whispers and rumors and conjecture about some behind the scenes issues and things. And, if you've seen them, then you've seen them. If not, then, hey, I'll leave those there. Those are not things I'm going to speak on, but I just don't, in general, I just don't think that the choice is going to end up being Miami. I really don't. And if he proves me wrong, then great. Come on down to Coral Gables. We'll get to work. We'll, do the work. But I don't see that that's what it's going to be. But in any event, regardless of the result of the Cormani McLean recruitment, the staff has done a really great job in this recruiting class and is already looking to, send out offers for the next couple of classes. I've seen a bunch of quarterback offers for 24 and 25 go out today. But, at the same time, winning a recruitment like this is why you bring in Mario Cristobal and the staff. And I know that there's been big wins already. There's been Ruben Bain. There's been Okunlola. There's been Mawagoa. There's been Jaden Wayne, Riley Williams, all these 4-stars. Ray Joseph, you flip him from Clemson. So there's been massive recruiting wins already and a really great job done already. But you still bring them in to win these recruitments as well. So, there have been other wins, but you want to keep stacking those wins. And again, like we talked about on offense, particularly at quarterback and wide receiver, there's plenty of L's in this recruiting class where, another win would be, definitely a welcome sight. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that he's coming to Miami. And again, I don't know what he's signing on a day that you can't sign anything, but hey, we'll just call it an announcement day and then we'll see. And, I'll have something ready for that. But that's pretty much the last thing. And then, next week, Wednesday, I think. Maybe I got to look. I might have something on Wednesday. I got to look and see. But either way, we'll be around sometime soon and we'll talk about it. So on the interim, go on over to stateoftheu.com. We got a couple of guys working on basketball stuff. I know I still have some other stuff to write, but I was having some computer issues recently and whatnot. But you can always come on over and fan with us over at State of the U, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports. I'm watching Miami, which is now all of a sudden in a little bit of a dogfight with Boston College after having been up 15. They're only up 8 now with 15 minutes to go in the game, but we can hopefully manage that. But all those kind of things and more, just a click away at stateoftheu.com, and we'll see you next week.
Cam, thank you for making this what it is. And again, everyone, please hit the bell for the notifications once you subscribe to know when we go live. And we will see you next time.